Hey everybody, welcome back. HSC Podcast 51. Got Big Box Steve on the mic, got Big Smooth, Derek, and Fresh Wes. Got the whole crew. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell to see our coming up podcasts. And any comments on stuff you want to see here, because we are going into the off season of the NFL. So anybody wants to see anything special, let us know. But we still got two good solid months of free agency and drafts and good stuff coming up. So good stuff happening there, and lots of stuff happening.
XFL.
Yeah, XFL starting. I'm sure
We
everybody
got
wants to
next.
want to know about that.
Next.
A lot of stuff happening already, around the league, which is getting it started quick. But before we jump in that, of course, since we didn't have our live Super Bowl podcast, we'll do our Super Bowl wrap up, talk about the season. So let's just jump right into Super Bowl. I know I had Philadelphia. I thought Philadelphia would win the game. Started off looked like it. Uh, Derek, you picked Philadelphia.
No, I took
No,
Kansas
you
City.
picked KC. West took Philadelphia.
No, I
I
took
took
Kansas
Kansas
City.
City.
Oh, okay. Man, you guys both
You're,
went
you're the
Kansas
one
City
who
on
took
me.
Philadelphia, David.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, it's weird for Raiders fans to be going Kansas City, huh?
Oh, trust
Well,
me. The last minute, I was like, nah. I realistically, yes, I want Philadelphia to win, but I know better than to pick against Kansas City. Obviously, probably a smart bet.
that's why it's the whole thing is like they're not going to let Mahomes lose the game. They're going to give him every opportunity to win, and that's what happened. That's what they did
Yeah.
against the Bengals too.
Philadelphia, though, they didn't play great in the second half. So there's definitely, there's a lot of things you can look at, but look, Philadelphia really, and a lot of their players even said this, we got to look internally at the way we played in the second half. Because they really, I mean, they got outscored pretty heftily, right, in the second half. Outside of getting that touchdown 2-point conversion, later in the game to come back and tie it up. At that point they were getting outscored like 21 to
Did,
3 or something like that,
did
right?
they
So
even have any sacks in the whole game?
Nope, zero
Yeah,
sacks.
it's zero. All this talk about the most ridiculous thing. Oh, the 85 Bears. Are you kidding me? Does
yeah,
anybody even remember the 85 Bears? How did they just destroyed everybody? They are not
right.
the 85 Bears. It's like
Well, they were
they didn't
just
have
saying
one sack.
because they were third all time in a
I
season for
Right.
know.
sacks
Yeah,
in the
I know.
defensive
I
line.
mean, that they had a good year, but in a game like that, I mean, KC puts up 38 points. They have no sacks. Those touchdowns, those were really nice. They were great design plays. I watched how they designed the play, how they designed it that they're gonna run or they're gonna shoot over the middle, and they went to the outside. They're really nice design plays. But the second time you fall for it again, the guy's wide open. Like, yeah, it was
it,
just not a good.
Philly, they didn't really play a ridiculously hard schedule, right? I mean, their division played way above what everybody thought it would and better they thought. But I think the NFC wasn't strong in general, which helped out, their division look better than they were. But throughout the course of the year, you look at the scores and the teams they played. It's not impressive. That's for sure. Because a lot of times it was like, teams missing quarterbacks, uh, barely beating the Colts, losing to the Redskins, to the Commanders and the Saints. Um, so, and they didn't really have that tough of a playoff uh, schedule either. Like they blew out the Giants, and then the game against San Francisco, Purdy gets hurt, and that ends up being a not close game as well. So so let's talk a few things about the game, what we're hearing. Obviously, the hold at the end of the game. You see this everywhere right now, right? So a lot of people talk about it. It's a little less now because we're a week out now. But after couple days after, it was everywhere, right? Uh, what are you guys' thoughts on that call?
Well, the whole excuse me, the whole idea of a foul is a foul is kind of ridiculous when there's a flag foul on every play, right?
Right.
And even they showed Mark Schlereth did it in slow motion, showed the game, the one play with the hold, and Josh Sweat is getting hands to the face, but they didn't call that.
Right.
So it's like you can't say, oh, well, the hold, they have to call that. Well, dude got hands to the face. That's like a 15-yard penalty.
Right.
And you don't call that. So it's kind of like it's the whole game. Everyone was even saying, oh, the refs are playing this good. It's just a good play. They're not, we don't even hear about them. And then they're like, oh, at the end, we're gonna interject on a 3rd and 15.
Yeah, I think the timing is a big part of it, right? Because you're talking about it's the end of the game. Kansas City gets a field goal there anyway, even if they don't call that, right? And so they still take the lead.
But they still have then a minute 27 or
right.
whatever left.
So the difference is like instead of them taking a last second field goal, they have to take the field goal earlier, with a minute and a half or whatever. And Philadelphia now has a chance to come back and tie the game or possibly win. And I think for me, that was big because I thought it was a really good game to watch. Like I was enjoying watching the game, and the refs didn't really affect the game like they did in the Cincinnati game, and I think even the San Francisco Philadelphia game had its amount of blunders as well. Where I kind of felt like this is going to be a really good end, and it was going to be fun to watch, And I was excited to see how it played out at the end until the holding call.
No, but Steve predicted. Remember, you predict. We're like sitting there watching. It was early in the 4th quarter, and we're watching the game. And he's like, dude, I have a feeling the refs are gonna screw this game up. And I was like, and when you said that, I was like, well, how would they do that? Oh, holding call. And then all of a sudden that happened. I was like, are you kidding me?
Well, it's last year it was overtime rules.
Yeah.
This year is refs messing up games. So Steve, I mean, it's highly logical to say that's going to happen because it's happened all year.
Yeah, it has. Well, all playoffs for sure.
And that's why it made me so mad because we're watching the game. And yeah, I'm not a fan of the Chiefs. The Eagles are cool or whatever. But I'm a football fan enjoying this game. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a really good game. And then to just make it I was thinking, oh man, this is going to come down to either if the Chiefs score a touchdown or a field goal, then it's going to be another drive. We might have overtime. And to get the big, huge letdown of, oh no, we're just going to have a bunch of kneel downs and stuff. And
we're not going to score. He's going to score a touchdown. I mean, what kind of sport is no, we're not going to score. It's like, oh, we're going to let him score. We're not. I mean, what is this crap? I mean, I was like, did they have that freaking refs ruin the game? That's all there's to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing is what I don't there's a couple things. What I don't understand is I keep, of course, Bradbury says, well, yeah, I help. He's sitting there. He's going to fall on the sword. And Eagles are they're trying to take the high road, probably because, hey, you know what? You got to toe the line. The NFL already looks bad after the Cincinnati games. All there's to it. People are so pissed off that they even got the Eagles in line. Just don't talk about the officiating. It's been such a great year. Like Goodell said, it's
right.
We had one of the best years ever. Are you freaking kidding me? Yeah, it's that good, huh? Look, what I don't understand on the play is I've looked online. You have 1,000 cameras in the freaking stadium. Like whenever there's they're measuring for a first down, you got every angle or everything. There's not even another angle of the front view of him holding.
Right.
Did you guys see it?
It's hard. It's hard to get a good solid picture of the hold, because what you have is his arm around, but you can't really see him holding, because you could put your hand on their
No,
side, like that's
it's
okay.
not when he
But
had his hand on his hip. It's they said he grabbed him here, but they have no reverse angle view of it. I can't find it. How do you not have it? You during the game they didn't show it.
There's two big issues with it, I think. So number one, right, there's holding on every single NFL or any single football play. It doesn't matter if it's NFL or college or high school. There's holding on every single play, right?
Yeah.
And to reiterate what you were saying, Derek, was it's like, oh well, it's a foul, it's a foul. No, it's not, because there's holding on every single play. And you're going to call it on one of the most important plays of the game. And number two, the other issue I have with that is that there is no way he was catching that ball.
Yeah,
no way he was catching that ball. That was by far an uncatchable ball. Even if you had tackled, or if he was holding him a lot, you would never have caught that ball.
It's not too debatable that he could have caught that ball. It was pretty. It was not catchable.
No, it was not.
But you know what they're gonna say? Oh yeah, well if he didn't hold him, he might have had a chance. But that's a stretch.
Usain Bolt might have had a chance. Yeah. You better be 6'7" and run a 4.1 if you're going to catch that ball. Because there's just no. So that's the two big issues that I had with it. Is one, there's holding on every play. Why are you calling it on the biggest play of the game? And number two, that it's just a so far uncatchable ball. It didn't make a difference, right? Whether he had a small jersey grab or not.
Remember Super Bowl 47 when Crabtree, remember the final play? Like San Francisco's like driving to win the game. And Crabtree goes, I watched the Super Bowl highlights. I've never seen it until a couple days ago. And they held Crabtree a little bit, more than freaking Bradbury held, in the corner of the end zone, and they didn't throw the flag, and freaking Harbaugh went nuts.
Right.
He's like, that's a hold, blah, blah, blah. And the announcer said this: you can't call a hold on a play like that to decide the Super Bowl. That's what he said.
Well, that's what Greg Olsen said.
Yeah.
He even said that in this game. He's like, I don't know why you're and he's a tight end, right? Yeah. He's a receiver. But it all goes to this. Mahomes is now, he's in like Brady territory. I compare him to LeBron James, Michael Jordan. Remember, and everyone forgets, like Michael Jordan was super clutch, but he also got a ton of ticky-tack foul calls for him.
Right.
And that's what's happening, is Mahomes gets bailed out a lot because of who he is.
Yeah. He's had a lot of success early, and people want to see him succeed. They want somebody to compare Tom Brady to, and so, yeah. And Tom Brady's old and retiring. You need a new poster child for the NFL. Josh Allen doesn't look like he's going to be it. Lamar Jackson fell off, and you've all these guys who had chances to be up there with him, that really Mahomes is kind of pulling away from those guys.
I think number one, Jalen Hurts ball. I gotta admit, like I wasn't really sold on him this year. Like I was like, I'm not quite sure. Like he still can't really throw the ball. He balled. I mean, he played such a good. Honestly, that's what made the Super Bowl. On that 2-point conversion, I was like, there's no way there's 4 guys in front of him. And he's like, you know what? Screw it. I'll just go right
head down.
And I was like, holy crap, dude. I was like,
we're talking,
I feel bad for him to a certain extent.
Since we're talking Jalen Hurts, let's talk about this rugby scrum quarterback sneak. Because here's the thing. I mean, I get it, right? They're going to do it because it's going to get you a yard or two every single time almost. Yeah. You rarely see them not get that. But the issue that I have with it is it's not Jalen Hurts actually getting the yards. It's the people behind him pushing him, right? And so if you're going to allow that, let's start allowing them to push the pile backwards. Like let's allow runners to get pushed the other way, because it's really not fair to the defense, because there's no way to stop that. That's really hard to stop. because they got this line, and now you got two guys behind just pushing this guy through space.
Why hasn't anyone else ever thought of this though? That's my
Yeah.
thing. Because how many times have I been so frustrated with 4th and 1, and you hand it off to tailback like 5 yards back,
Right.
and it's like when you have a quarterback right there who just do this,
Or they're running a toss or something like that, or
off tackle. It's like,
well, I mean, remember Drew Brees, what he does on the goal line. Like, how many times you seen Drew Brees do the hike it, jump up, throw the ball over, and bring it back? Like that's unstoppable too.
unless it gets knocked out before you cross, like it happened in the Bengals Ravens.
Yeah, he was quite a few yards. He was like 2 yards back, and he was being pushed and tried to reach. Like Breeze just like it's on the 1, and he like jumps up, puts it over, and brings it back real quick. So, but yeah, I mean, I guess it's there and you do it, but I just don't agree with the pushing, because they took that out for a while. I remember I thought it was a thing for a while where you couldn't push your player forward.
Yeah, I thought so too.
And they brought it back.
Yeah, it was I at first, when I first saw him do it, I was like, all right, this is interesting, this is cool. And then they did it the whole game. It's like, all right, then you see how much they're pushing him from behind,
Well, they've been doing it all year.
Yeah.
That's been a constant for them all year.
Yeah. It's I think
like Hurts broke the record, right? Did he not? I thought he maybe broke the record for rushing touchdowns for a quarterback.
Yeah,
he did.
And then he tied the record for most rushing yards, touchdowns by player.
Yeah,
they're gonna competition committee is gonna look at that because people are gonna complain.
Well, and then how pissed off are his running backs? Like, you get down to the goal line and you never get a touchdown.
Yeah,
Refrigerator Perry.
Right.
Yeah.
So the last thing about the Super Bowl, I don't know if you guys saw this. They're talking about the field, right? So the field, people are slipping everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. They ran a data analysis on slipping, play by play through the whole game, and changing of cleats. So Eagles had to change cleats on an average of 2 times per player, some people up to 3 times. Kansas City was like under 1 average changing of cleats.
Well, you know why?
And so the apparently the guy who takes care of the field is like a Kansas City guy.
What?
Well, I thought it was because they already played there once this year.
No, it's a whole new field. It was a whole new field for this game. It was new.
Well, because they were talking,
the Kansas City players
were talking about it, how it was slippery when they played in week 2 or something.
They complained about it. The Chiefs complained about it like week 1 or week 2. I don't know when they play it, but the Chiefs already complained about the field.
So
they knew about it.
So the thing that I read was so the guy who takes care of the field's done for like, and he's retiring this year, but he's taking care of the field for all the Super Bowls for like last 30 years. He's like a huge Chiefs fan. And even there's even an interview of him, or Goodell's like telling him like, you can't favor the Chiefs, and he's like, well, if I had 2 hearts, one would go to the NFL, the other would go to the Chiefs, And but anyway, so then this guy runs this data analysis on not just to change the cleats, but the slips. And Philadelphia player slipped on 38% of plays.
Yep.
And like 20-some%, 2 guys slipped on the play. So they had like 2 guys on a quarter of the plays of the whole Super Bowl slipping.
Was it the fact that they painted the field? Because people say
no, it was like they made the grass and stuff. It was
a special grass, but they did paint it too. But the grass was special. They paid like $1 million to invent. It's a new type of grass that they haven't used before. And so it's pretty interesting to look at that kind of stuff, though. But just how often the Eagles players were slipping, but just to watch people slipping in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they slipped a lot.
You're like, what's going on? Like everybody was slipping. Did you see it? You thought that the kicker, Elliott,
He almost
Whoever's
broke his
kicking
ankle.
off, like he looked like he was going to break his ankle on that kickoff.
Well, and that's what happened was in the Chiefs Cardinals game, Harrison Buckner hurt himself in that game, slipping, and he was out for like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if that. I don't know if it's the same field or not. I'll have to look that up. But
Well, they won't have to worry about that in the next 2 Super Bowls because they don't have a field like that. I mean, it's so stupid that NFL can be. I mean, just the incompetence of the NFL. I mean, it's like this is a big industry that you guys run. How are you this incompetent about everything?
Well,
It's so stupid.
They don't care because we're going to still watch.
right.
But see, it's almost like they're testing the market. It's like, everyone's going to still watch. It's like, well, yeah, I guess, but I still know people like I'm not watching this crap anymore.
It's also kind of interesting though. Like the biggest game of the year, stuff like that happens. It's like it's like it's the most important part of your life, and you decide to do something stupid.
Yeah.
So
And
that's an issue.
just the fact that Mahomes comes out and he said something the other day about halftime. I guess Andy Reid said, "You know what, guys? You guys go out and watch the halftime show. I'm gonna bench you." Why does a coach even have to say that? It's a fucking Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? You'd rather watch Rihanna than play in the Super Bowl? I'm so sick of Rihanna.
They don't make a lot of halftime adjustments anyway.
Did you guys watch the halftime? Derek, you watched some of it. I mean,
I was in the kid. Yeah, my wife was watching it because that's all she cares about. And even she was like, this is pretty underwhelming. And then you go on Twitter and people are like, oh, she's so great.
Oh, she's so awesome. It's like, are you a chatbot? Do you have a mind of your own? I watched some of the highlights and she's wearing a freaking I was like, why is she wearing a parka? Oh, she's pregnant. I forgot. Like, really?
Well, and then what is like, Dr. Dre comes out and he brings Eminem and Snoop Dogg and 50 Cent, right? And Mary J. Blige. She brings nobody.
Right.
Yeah, it's just her. Yeah.
It wasn't impressive. Yeah, it wasn't an impressive halftime show, that's for sure. And then, we got to talk about commercials. Like, they weren't very impressive either.
There was a few I liked.
Yeah, and there's always a couple you like, but when you're seeing, like, to me, like when you're seeing like underwhelming commercials the whole time, you finally see a decent one. You're like, oh, that was good. But I don't know. You guys remember the old days, how good Super Bowl commercials were, right?
Well, the Bud Bowl, man. Bud Bowls were awesome.
Yeah, it was great, So, all right. So, jumping out of the Super Bowl, wrapping up the NFL season. As you kind of look back at the season, did the playoffs go as we expected? Did the season go as expected? What are some high points, some low points? What do you guys think about the overall season at this point?
This year was a little bit more underwhelming. Like last year was so amazing. Like the playoffs and everything was so good. And this year, like what happened in the Super Bowl is basically how the season went. It was pretty underwhelming, right? It kind of took a step down from last year. Last year you were building, you're like, oh man, we got all these young quarterbacks, we got all this, and and then this year the playoffs were kind of garbage. There wasn't really any great games. And then the Super Bowl was what it was, so it's kind of an underwhelming season. It's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, it just looking at the whole season in general, I've never seen such dysfunction with these franchises. These decisions they're making, I mean, this is your job. Your job is to win football games, and you guys you're not leaving it out on the field. And I think the problem is just like any other position of power, because the NFL has a lot of power, you get a lot of people that are just cutting checks. And I'm talking about coaches. I'm not even talking about players.
Right.
They are cutting checks. They are not doing their job. Look how Dallas hired their new offensive coordinator. He was a consultant for the Cowboys, and he gets a job to be the OC because everyone's freaked out about Mike McCarthy, getting you can't do it. It's like he's like, okay, I'll just hire this guy. It's like, these guys, and they go around and you have the same guys just moving around teams, doing the same crap they've been doing for the last couple of years, and honestly, they're not doing their job. I mean, look at the Cowboys. Cowboys had a legit defense. They had no offense, right? I'm not going to blame it all on Dak either. It's like Dak does have some talent, but you got to put him in situations where he feels more comfortable.
Yeah, but you look at Dallas, they got two good running backs, I mean, yeah, Zeke's not what he used to be, but he's still he's definitely a formidable running back. Pollard was playing better than he's played ever in his career. You got a good wide receiver crew. CeeDee Lamb, one of the better in the NFC, and you have a really great tight end in Schultz. I mean, there's no reason Dallas's offense shouldn't have, and they were good. They scored a lot of points.
Well,
they were one of the highest scoring teams in the league.
Well, we're talking about playoffs. I mean,
right. Well, obviously, Dallas in the playoffs is different.
Down to it, when the chips are on the table, like I watched Super Bowl 13 highlights, and this is in a loss to the Steelers. Those guys balled. I mean, Staubach, Dorsett, and Drew Pearson. Those guys left it on. They had to come from 17 points back, and they almost beat the Steelers. They came back and they lost by 4. But even in a loss, those guys ball. And this whole Micah Parsons thing is like talking about, oh yeah, we're gonna talk about Super Bowl 58 already. You need to look back and look at the reason why you lost the season going to Super Bowl 57. And it has to start with the quarterback. And honestly, you're stuck with Dak Prescott. You're not getting rid of Dak Prescott. So you need to figure out a way. If you're an OC or you're an offensive consultant like this guy is, I mean, everyone's an offensive consultant now. It's like figure out a way to utilize Dak and help Dak out. You guys can't win a Super Bowl, but you need to have a great offensive mind to deal with Dak. It's like you just can't go out there and play team straight up. Dak Prescott is not that. He's not an elite quarterback like that. But if Trent Dilfer can win a Super Bowl, Dak can win a Super Bowl.
They had a pretty good defense.
Well, Dallas has got a decent defense.
Yeah.
Well, Dilfer didn't turn the ball over the most in the NFL either.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's part of the problem too.
I think Dallas overall, they obviously they got to the playoffs. They played decent, to get there. They're always disappointed in the playoffs. I think Green Bay, in my mind, was disappointing this year. I think they should have had a better year. Raiders, very disappointing. Broncos, very disappointing.
There's a lot of yeah.
I think those are probably some of the biggest. I think New Orleans could have played better. I think New Orleans, but they had some injuries. They had a lot of injuries. I think at some point you got to move on from Michael Thomas.
Rams,
I think Rams are a huge disappointment. So those are some of the real disappointing, things that happen. What are some of the positives? I mean, obviously the Giants, they're a team. Didn't expect to be there, even though they didn't play well in their very last game. Yeah, Jacksonville.
I'm kind of impressed by Jacksonville. Jacksonville really gave the Chiefs. They really could have won that game. I mean, they're starting to figure things out now. They picked up Calvin Ridley as another weapon. Once he gets cleared to play, Jacksonville. I might put some cash on Jacksonville just because why not? I mean,
they got the easy division.
Yeah.
The Chiefs, of course, are going to be the favorites, but honestly, I still think the Chiefs probably need to add a receiver. They're not going to be able to continue to get away with just throwing it to Kelsey. they're going to have to get in it because next year Buffalo is going to come full throttle. They're gonna be the team to me still.
They
They're
were
gonna
supposed
come
to be
out.
the team this year,
Yeah,
you know.
well, they're well, the Hamlin thing kind of screwed everything up. I mean, that was just. I mean that. I almost forgot about it for a minute, but the Hamlin thing. I mean,
I don't think
that
that
might.
ruined their season. I think I wasn't impressed with the Bills for the most of the end of the season.
No.
I don't think the last few games they played well. I don't think the playoffs they played, obviously, they didn't play well because they lost. They almost lost to Miami round one,
Yeah.
So Buffalo, even though they've had a good season, they still fall more for me, towards the disappointing and then they were great. Jacksonville, I think they had a good run. They started off pretty decent. They had a rough middle there, but then, they obviously finished up strong. Uh, the Eagles, obviously, they were a surprise as far as getting to the Super Bowl. I think everybody thought they would do a lot better this year. I don't know that they were a Super Bowl favorite to get there, but, they got there. Minnesota also surprised to a terrible playoff, loss. It's like they look good, they have a great season, and then they get destroyed in a playoff game to the Giants. So, but I still think they had a good season, and I didn't expect them to have that good of a season. I thought they'd be like, a wild, a 6 or a 7 seed maybe.
Wow. Man.
Well, for me, besides Jacksonville, I look at the number 5 and number 6 draft picks this coming year. The Seahawks and the Lions, both exceeded expectations completely. Seattle making the playoffs, Detroit within a game of making the playoffs, and they get the fifth and sixth overall pick in the draft.
Yeah. Yeah, the Seahawks, I think, were a huge surprise. Played really well. Geno Smith played great. I think that was the key. I think their defense, their rookies on defense really played well. So that's going to help them going into next year. Detroit, I think, made the biggest strides of any team in the league, even though they didn't make the playoffs. I think they showed they're a playoff contender. They're got a lot of young players. They have a good coach.
They're hungry.
If Goff keeps it together next year, they're definitely a playoff team, right? And they're a force. But if you're talking about like overall improvement and future, I think Detroit's got one of the biggest futures coming. The Giants, they got to figure out what they're doing with Jones and Barkley, right? So that's going to be trouble for them. There wasn't a lot of teams, though, that there was more disappoint to me than there was that was some great performances. There was more disappointing performances than because obviously like Tampa, terrible performance, the Green Bays and the
it's like
unfortunately the Rams is the other one I was thinking. But San Francisco was a great story and would have been really great to see if Purdy didn't get hurt and was able to play that game out just to see how that turned out.
I still think they would have lost though, because I think it was.
I think what good. I think everyone's going to dissect in the off season, especially the teams that aren't very good, and there's a lot of teams that are very good. But if you are going to be competitive, I think everyone's going to dissect the Eagles, what they did on offense. Why not why not just try to mirror what they did and get someone like Jalen Hurts, develop him as a quarterback? Maybe he's not the best thrower on the planet. Of course, he's not Tom Brady. We understand that. But he's a dual threat. You can run that offense now in the NFL. NFL, I don't think you could have ran that offense in the 90s. But the NFL is different now. You can do it. But I mean, I think teams are going to say, why do we need to draft Levis? Why do we need to hold the Zach Wilson thing? No, forget that. we'll get a quarterback in the 3rd round, and we'll run what Philadelphia did.
Yeah, but that's hard to say. I mean, it's like, are you going to get a Heisman Trophy winning, national champion quarterback in the 3rd or 4th round?
Well, that's not. Of course, you're not. But not everyone has a chance to get Bryce Young. Not everybody can CJ Stroud. That's all there's to it. There's only 2 teams at the top that are going to get him. If you're a team in the middle, if you're a team in the middle of the pack and your draft pick sucks, honestly, like the Raiders. I mean, they got the 7th pick.
You get Brock Purdy in the last round.
Huh?
Yeah.
You get Brock Purdy in the last pick of the draft.
Tom Brady.
Everyone's going to try to do that. I mean, that's philosophy, I guess. But I'm talking about someone that the kid from like Louis. Have you seen the kid from Louisville play? I mean, he's like Lamar Jackson, Cunningham. But I mean, even a guy like that, he's just fast. But he might not be the best passer in the world. But I think teams might start looking at like, why don't we just do this? Because look at these quarterbacks. Look at Mac Jones. I mean, how much capital did you spend on a guy like why? You just wasted so much draft capital on Mac Jones. Why? Because he won a national championship.
But okay, so the thing I understand about the Eagles though also is you don't always get to have an AJ Brown and a Devonta Smith either.
Well,
I mean
Or
that's
the
pretty
number
helpful.
1 offensive line.
that's true, but they're good. But we're talking about their overall offensive philosophy is that read option. They ran it to a T. They had it down. They said, you know what? If that linebacker bites over, we're throwing the slant. If he doesn't, I mean, they had the philosophy down. I'm just talking about the philosophy. You can plug and play some of these guys. A.J. Brown's good, but he's not Jerry Rice. Devontae Adams is good. I mean, it's just. I mean, excuse me. Yeah, it's just they're good, but they're not great. You can. A lot of teams they do have good wide receivers. Just the fact that there's so many average and below average quarterbacks in the league. You have them starting. I mean, the Raiders don't even have. The Raiders better get a quarterback because who are you going to start this year?
Let's talk about Carr for a second. So where does Carr end up now?
Fucking USFL.
NFC South somewhere.
Saints, maybe.
I've heard the Bucks.
Panthers, Bucks.
Yeah.
I also think that Garoppolo might be going to the Bucks.
Yeah.
So I thought that was because I think Garoppolo is a good fit for the Bucks.
Yeah. If I was Carr, the best if I want to win, the Jets.
Yeah. That's a good spot for him. You got a young team. You got a good defense, real good defense. You got some good young offensive guys.
And then the Jets fan base has been waiting for a decent quarterback for their whole career, their whole life.
That's a tough division though to jump back into though. So you're going from like a really good division to another really good division.
Well, though, think about it. If the Jets had a top 15 quarterback, they would have made the playoffs this year, right?
Yeah, for sure. That killed them.
But and when you look at it, that's going to be a brutal division next year.
Oh yeah,
I mean, especially if they do get Derek Carr, which I think it's probably going to be Derek Carr versus Aaron Rodgers. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to the Jets. So, I mean, if anything, it will probably be Derek Carr. And, it makes him formidable. Derek Carr can still play. I just think the Raiders, it's kind of like Dak in Dallas. Everyone wants Dak to be a star. He's not a star. He's not. He will do well on a lesser team, but when you have all that pressure of being the Dallas Cowboy quarterback, it's too much. So it's kind of like Derek Carr being with a Raider. It's a lot of pressure. I think the Jets it's tough being in New York, but I even think that's less pressure than being a Raider quarterback because their defense is legit. You know, they got some weapons. They got Garrett Wilson. I think he would do well there as long as they set up the offense to make him feel comfortable. Because obviously he doesn't feel comfortable.
Well, I mean, I don't know. You could compare him to Dak Prescott. When has Carr ever had a defense that could even sniff the top 15?
Yeah, not even close.
That's true, but in big moments, Derek Carr just he just hasn't got it done.
Well, how many big moments do you have when your team gives up 30-something points a game?
Yeah. They haven't had the best record as of late.
Their defense has sucked for years, and that's a whole other. And when we're talking about the Raiders, it's a whole other issue. They should draft defense. They should completely draft defense. But it's kind of hard to draft defense when you got the 7th pick in the draft and Mel Kiper and all. Oh, you got to get Levis is so great. Really? Everyone
is saying and they're going to pass on Stroud for an offensive tackle.
What do the Raiders do for quarterback next year then?
Who knows?
If you don't draft one.
Josh McDaniels and Ziegler are complete idiots. They'll probably pay Jimmy G the same amount that they would have paid Carr.
Yeah. You know what? That's the scary. That's the scary
Jimmy G at your team.
If they actually get Jimmy G, that's scary.
Oh man!
Why would you effing do that?
The only thing you can do with this, if you're getting rid of Carr, is you have to draft a quarterback.
Right. You really do. They have to.
And
you almost have to draft 11.
And then you got to use all your cap space and the rest of your draft on defense.
Right.
And here's the thing is, okay, so let's say the top 3 quarterbacks are gone. Then you have to draft Richardson.
Right.
Wow.
And then you bring back Stidham and you have to suck it up and start Stidham for a year. It's going to suck.
Oh God, please don't say that.
Well,
oh my God.
I'm not going to pay. It would be ridiculous to trade a bunch of draft picks for Aaron Rodgers because then you're in the same predicament because you still don't have a defense and you don't know if he's going to retire or not. So you just traded a first, a second, a third, and whatever for Aaron Rodgers.
Well, why not wait? Why not wait? Why not run Stidham next year and wait for next year's quarterback draft? Maybe trade your pick down, get a bad team's first next year.
Yeah, I think the best bet is to trade down, start trading down, get players, build a defense, and if anything, even though it's hard to see Stidham as a starter next year, if anything, there's about 3 or 4 guys that you get the 3rd and 4th round at quarterback. Put them in there, see if they can play. If not, you can always get a quarterback next year. That's probably their best bet. Instead of paying Aaron Rodgers, if they get Garoppolo, that's going to be the dumbest thing ever. Yeah, I'm going to get Garoppolo. Yeah. I got rid of Carr for Garoppolo. Really?
The only issue is
because it feels good.
The Raiders aren't going to want to they want to win next year. I can't see them looking at next year as a loss at this point because McDaniels is going to be under the gun, obviously. He's got to have a good year, so he's not going to want to lose. So that's going to be tough for them. And
the overall thing is you do have the Super Bowl champions in the division,
right?
And they're not going to be any weaker. You got the Chargers that everyone says they're always going to someone predict them to go this. They're already doing Super Bowl predictions.
Well,
really?
They still got the same head coach, so that's not happening.
We never even had the draft. ESPN, who's in Super Bowl 58? It's we haven't had the damn draft yet. You guys are predicting the Super Bowl.
We don't even know if Keenan Allen's going to get
the Chargers and the Cowboys. I'm like, I don't even want to hear about the Cowboys in the Super Bowl. It's like I'm middle school again. Cowboys in the Super Bowl. It's so stupid.
They pick don't they, especially Cowboys fans, don't they think they're going to the Super Bowl every year?
Well, they got the star in their helmet. We got the star, because Dak Prescott's such a star.
So one thing as I was looking at and doing some of these mock drafts and looking at there, you could get pretty solid defensive players throughout most of the first round.
Yeah.
There's
You're
a
not
lot of
obviously going to
players.
get a Will Anderson, but even with picking in the 20s, there's some solid
30s.
first round defensive players. And so if you're not really looking for one of those top quarterbacks, trade to a team who is. Let them go for it and get maybe a next year's pick and move down, or maybe get a couple more picks in the second or third round or
Oh,
something.
we've all done those mock drafts. I've been doing mock drafts, and it's like I just experiment with trading down in the freaking play. I mean, the Bears. I mean, Bears just load up on defense. Raiders can load up on defense. I mean, there's a lot of defensive players.
The Bears,
Just
yeah,
quarterbacks.
because the Bears can make 2 trades and just move to 4.
Yeah,
Right.
Then get Jalen Carter at 4.
Well, so it looks like Arizona's pretty set on Will Anderson.
Oh, really?
And so yeah, and Bears want Jalen Carter anyway, right? So why not move back to 4? Because you that's who you're getting at 4.
Yeah.
Because
and I
obviously
think, and
Houston
Ursay's going to try and get Bryce Young.
Yep.
Right. Oh yeah.
That's what he wants.
Absolutely.
It's probably going to be the Colts. Bryce Young's probably going to go 1. Stroud's going to go 2 to Texans. Yeah, Will Anderson will go 3.
Although Texans have been in on Derek Carr too.
Yeah. Well, so I have seen Texans look at one of these quarterbacks that are available. You got Jimmy G, you got Aaron Rodgers, you got Derek Carr, and there's nothing wrong with any of those 3 quarterbacks, right? Those are all formidable, quarterbacks. Give you a few more years. Obviously, Rodgers is later in his career, but he's still better than the other 2, even though he's older. But if you get Carr or Garoppolo, granted Garoppolo has to stay healthy, you get 3 or 4 years out of them, 5 years
Right.
out of either of those guys, right? And now they go in and they take Will Anderson, that number 2 pick.
Or they trade down to get more draft capital.
Right. Well, they already have good draft capital.
I know.
If they start trading down, though, then other teams like the Colts are like, well, we're not trading up if you're trading down, because we know now.
Well,
you're
by
not
then the
quarterback.
Colts would have already traded with the Bears.
Yeah. But there's still some free agent things, moves to happen before the draft actually happens. So I think that's going to affect it a lot too.
Right.
So yeah, then that's in March. You see some of that start to happen, and then the draft, comes in late April.
You never know. Carr can happen anytime now.
Right. Well, I mean, so can Rodgers.
Yeah. Well, technically, Rodgers will have to wait till the new year.
Right.
To get
but
a trade.
Do a trade of that, because I think Rodgers is most likely going to go in some kind of trade. I think he has to, pretty much, right?
Isn't Aaron Rodgers like on some retreat somewhere?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, he didn't care, dude.
It's a total darkness retreat.
What is
it? He's in I don't know where, but it's like all dark for 4 days.
No,
But he had time to tweet out about the
he did
conspiracies
is he still going to do the podcast?
He actually hadn't gone to it yet. And he did that
when he did his conspiracy tweet.
Yeah, he really went on Pat McAfee show.
Yeah, dude, Aaron Rodgers, man, that guy's wild. So there's some good moves, around there. Sounds like Lamar Jackson is probably going to get franchise tagged.
Whoa.
Jones and Barkley, I think that's an interesting situation too.
Jones wants like $35 million a year.
Yeah, he does. And Barkley does. But Barkley wants it's like 22 or 23 or something like that. So between the 2 of them, you're going to spend $60 million.
Barkley's gone then.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking some team can come in and snatch up Barkley, who's got some cap.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's going to happen is They're going to have to sign Daniel Jones to a long-term contract and then tag Barkley.
Right. If they don't want to use it on someone else.
Yeah.
They might just be like, sorry, Barkley, like we're going to tag somebody else and we're just going to let you go. Because either way, you're going to spend a lot of money on Barkley, even on a tag. And then, and you're going to let him go next year anyway.
The tag, I think, is like $12 million for a running back. So it's not that bad.
Right.
Because the whole Josh Jacobs, they're going to probably have to tag him.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it'd be silly to let Jacobs go. That's crazy.
Well,
they are the Raiders, though. So,
well, I mean, they're gonna have to pay him. You know.
Yeah, but if they tag him this year, then they restructure him or they pay him next year. Yeah. And then because I mean, obviously, you hope he has another good year,
right?
But they weren't sold on him this year. Otherwise, they would have extended him.
No, they're gonna tag him, and basically, it's like, all right, we'll have him for one more year.
I don't understand why they didn't extend him on his fourth year when they had the chance.
Because McDaniels and Ziegler are stupid.
Because it's not like
it wasn't even that much difference in. Yeah.
And he played well, especially in his rookie season. He played really good. He's had decent numbers the whole time. It's not like you're going to get a better running back out there.
Well, they're, the Patriot way, running back by committee.
Right.
Never had a running back like Josh Jacobs, though.
No. I mean, Corey Dillon was pretty good in New England, but New England is a different beast. I don't care. McDaniels, he's never going to do what New England was able to do. I don't think any team will ever be able to put that many people together at all those positions, underwhelming talent and have that kind of success. Like, that's just crazy. Like, you got to have players like, Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Like, you need those kind of players.
Well, the Patriots had Gronk and Brady, and they had Randy Moss at a bit of time. That I know he's taboo now, but Aaron Hernandez was a pretty good tight end also.
Yeah.
Oh, I watched that. So I watched that.
They
Super
lost
Bowl
when
he
they had
scored
Moss.
The touchdown. I was like, oh, look, it's Aaron Hernandez scoring touchdowns in the Super Bowl. I'm like, ooh.
Speaking of the Patriots and Moss, like, so they were 18-0 going into the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Imagine if they win that Super Bowl, 19-0. And Brady's got like 8 rings, and he was 19-0. Like, he was one game away from being like untouchable ever.
0-2 against Eli Manning.
Right.
Yeah. Those weren't blowouts though. That was even watching them in Super Bowl 46, they almost got that Hail Mary. Gronk had it. It was I'm like, are you kidding me, Gronk? I bet you he still kicks himself. He's like, oh, just dove.
That's Brady lost.
I mean, Steffen would have caught it. Dude, if it was Steffen would have caught it.
And Brady lost to Nick Foles.
Right.
Oh, jeez. No, it was the Philly special because the greatest play ever.
But didn't Foles still also throw for like 400 yards in that game?
No, he played good.
Yeah, he played well. Yeah, they had that early touchdown pass he threw. Was that Alshon Jeffrey or?
It's interesting how those games play out, and then watching Nick Foles like after that. Like, how are you so bad?
I know it's
bald in the Super Bowl. You have a Super Bowl ring, and how are you this bad?
Because everywhere he's gone,
yeah.
Like he left, he went to the Rams, he went to the Bears, he went to the Jaguars.
Where is he now? The Colts? Is he with the Colts?
I don't know.
I think he is.
And he sucked everywhere. Then he went back to the Eagles, and he was good again. Right? He had some good games when he came back. And then he left again, and he sucks again.
He had a good run actually with the Bears because so they had injuries at quarterback, and he came in and he won. They went to they lost like 5 in a row, but then he won like 6 in a row. And they just missed the playoffs, or he had a good run with the Bears. I wasn't mad at him. He wasn't like throwing for 300 yards a game, but he was winning games.
Well, for a quarterback play for the Bears, there's the bar is not set high.
Bar is pretty low.
Well, it's going to be interesting. So, I know I've done some mock drafts trading Fields, but I just don't. That's not realistic. Obviously, the Bears aren't going to trade Fields, and I'm interested to see what he comes back and does next year, because now that he knows how he can run the ball and how he can control the game running the ball, if he can now implement some of his passing skills, that makes him really dangerous, because he has a really good arm, and I haven't seen anybody that can throw across their body or deep like him on the run. When he's moving, he's actually best when he's on the roll out, and if they can figure that part of it out and get him rolling and running at the same time, he could be really dangerous.
Yeah. When they drafted him, I had this feeling like that a Super Bowl's in their future at some point. Maybe not in the next year or two, but it is.
No, they're 3-4 years out.
Yeah, I mean,
for sure.
He is that. I think he is special, but they really do have to protect him, and they just can't let him. I mean, he's running for his life. Yeah, he's great, but he's running for his life, and he can't do that. They have to set up the offense where he does run, but it needs to be strategic. It needs to be controlled. And honestly, he needs to run and throw the ball.
They did that the second half of the season. They were really, outside the last maybe game or two, they were really just designed runs. They were putting him in position to running off tackle, running sweeps behind blockers and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see what they do next year, and mostly what they do in the draft. I think this year for the Bears draft is going to determine, will they be able to rebuild and get back into playoff contention in the next
NFC North is going to be tough next year. Look at if Aaron Rodgers stays, look at that.
I don't think he stays. I think Green Bay goes down.
Yeah, it sounds like if you got to watch ESPN, because they kind of like show the hands kind of sometimes. They're really talking about him leaving.
Yeah.
They're really talking about the Jets. They're like, oh, he won't do well in New York. It's like, come on.
I think Minnesota wins the division again next year. The Lions right behind them, and then the Lions probably take it the year after.
I'm taking the Lions, man. I don't believe.
And maybe for a few years.
I'm not sold on Kirk Cousins. I don't care.
I'm going to say this, even though I don't know.
I think the Lions are good next year.
I don't know what's happening at the draft or anything, but I got a feeling the Vikings aren't making the playoffs next year.
Oh.
Didn't you have them not in the playoffs this year?
Oh yeah.
Probably. I did so poorly. The problem is
the Cardinals.
The problem is you pick it before the season and you don't know how teams are going to react. And then it's like week 2 or 3 is when you figure out what teams are really going to be like.
Yeah. Well, it's also how you start progressing in your picks, and you get better at picking week over week, as the season progresses. So,
and then history states the Vikings aren't going to be as lucky as they were this year.
Yeah. Well, you win that many games and you don't have a positive, plus minus. That's crazy.
No.
That's I don't think that's ever happened, right? I think that's the first team to ever do that. I just don't see them, and Detroit could definitely win the division, but either one of them two is going to win. I don't see Green Bay doing well. I don't see Chicago there yet. So one of those two teams wins the division, and they'll still be there. So they're probably not have as good a record as they had, but
Well, rumor is the greatest receiving running back of all time,
according to West,
according to Wes, might get cut at cap
really,
casualty.
wow, that would be a big loss. But they did just sign, or they just got a new defensive coordinator. Is that who they got?
Yeah. Didn't they get the guy from Detroit or Denver?
No, they signed. Who? They just got a coach that I thought we. Oh, they got what's his name? Brian Flores.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, I think he's their new DC.
Oh,
right?
yeah, you're right. Brian Flores.
Yeah. So he's gonna turn it around. He's gonna turn it around. But I mean, don't get me wrong. I hope Minnesota loses. So I never want Minnesota to win. I just think that it's gonna be an awful division again. Not as awful as the South, obviously, this year, but it won't be great. Cool. Well, that's the year to wrap. Overall standing. So Derek won the playoffs as well. So ended up with a 1-game lead over Wes.
Repeat.
You got the repeat in the so Wes, you should have went Philly, because you couldn't have won without it.
Well, then it would have been.
The last day, I just wait till seeing everybody's predictions. I remember the Philly New England Super Bowl and how everybody picked the Patriots. And I go, you know what? You're disrespecting the Eagles. Like, this is kind of stupid. And it's kind of felt like the same way. I was like, yeah, everyone picking Philly. I was like, you know how these things go. It's like the Chiefs will find a way to win the game. And they did.
So we also got to figure out a fantasy football trophy. We gotta get a trophy for HSC fantasy football. We gotta have something.
Yeah. Can we find out who came in last place?
Yeah, get a last place trophy too.
Yeah.
Well, if you get everybody playing, that becomes more relevant, right? So
last place gets a gift certificate to Bill's Steakhouse.
I'll take a gift to the Bill. I love Bill's Steakhouse.
Dude, it's pretty sketched. It's pretty sketchy down
pretty
there.
bad.
He gets a gift certificate. Still could get drinks with it.
It was
you don't get last
30
place.
Years ago.
Last place doesn't get anything good. Last place, it's like you got to eat something gross or
right. You gotta go streaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's figure that out. We got to figure out a first place, and then let's try to get people who are going to play all year.
Right.
Next year.
And you know, I can try to.
Wes, you can't just sign up 4 teams.
No, that doesn't work. The Godfather was not fully engaged.
You should have just traded the ball to your team.
Yeah.
I tried to. It didn't work.
It wouldn't work. Oh, good stuff. All right. Well, thanks for everybody for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and like. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, appreciate listening. Any final words?
Time for March Madness.
Yeah, we got March Madness coming up. We got we might have to talk a little NBA these days because there's been some good stuff in the NBA. So
my Knicks are actually looking decent this year.
Yeah, a lot of interesting stuff happened. We might have to get Big Mike in for a couple current events podcasts in the off season here because there's some crazy shit happening.
It's like we need a Big Mike's been MIA.
Well, let's not get ourselves banned from here now.
Right. You got to be careful these days because
Yeah.
it's all about shadow banning and yeah, you can't say anything against the mainstream media, otherwise you're out.
Yep.
Crazy. All right, guys, we'll see you soon. Everybody, thanks for listening.